right. All right. Good evening. So it is 6:24 on the 30th. Is it the 30th?
30th.
Thank you, of March. And I'd like to call the Town Council monthly work session to order for this evening. Roll call, please.
Pasanello, Larson,
Here.
Gallagher,
Here.
Hager,
Here.
Capicella,
Here.
Baker, BNA.
All right. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
I don't think Justin noticed it, but I gave him the whoopee cushion chair last night.
Did you switch it?
I did. You're late.
So we did start a little bit late. We were waiting for councilperson oh, I did it again. Capicella.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Practice, and it was all the things, so. Okay. All right. So this brings us to the FY27 budget work session. Roberto, could you please lead us? I know, I was like, we all have these rulers.
Okay.
Promise not to fight with him.
Well, they're sharp.
And it better be a good budget.
I don't know, with the glasses and that's reminding me of my parents, but yeah. Well, good evening. Today is our annual work session for the proposed FY 2027 budget. I know that I haven't spoken to, I've been able to speak with the finance committee on this and individually with some of you council members, but now we're doing it out here with the whole as a council. Hopefully there's some feedback today after those discussions or thoughts. But let's get started. The first section you see here is obviously our real estate tax revenues. We have proposed a flat tax rate of 0.098, which means that we are proposing to keep the same tax rate as last year's for when it comes to real estate. This year we are potentially seeing about a 3.7% increase just doing an average with single family homes compared to townhomes. Single family homes will be seeing about a $20 increase on average, and the the townhomes will be a $20 increase, and the single family homes about a $22 increase. It kind of it pretty much aligns with what the financial analysts that stated how they're seeing in the next 5 years. On average, you'll see about a 4.1% increase when it comes to real estate by maintaining the same tax rate. It's starting to see that shift where we're starting to see the assessments kind of become a little bit more easier to track versus the prior years. Again, I don't know if there's any questions on this section. This year, with keeping the same tax rate, you'll see that we're looking at about a $19,174 increase from last year's expected revenues. Again, the only thing that could change this is if there's more throughout the year, if there's more approved exemptions by the county. Exemptions people can still apply for with the county, and if the county approves it, we go ahead and honor it as well. Don't know if there's any questions on this section right now.
Could you define what an exemption is?
So the exemption is basically, it could be for elderly exemption, disability exemption, a veterans exemption. They have to apply the process. It's an annual thing. So if they get it this year, they have to apply for it next year again. They got it the prior year, they have to apply for it again. And basically the county takes their metrics on how much percentage or if all they exempt 100% of real estate and property tax or of a percentage of 60%, 50%. The town has always honored that as well. So if a resident were to be approved for a 50% discount on their properties and real estate, we will honor that as well and would only charge them for 50% of what the town tax would be.
Thank you.
And that's visible to you, so you know what kind of percentage reduction we have in town then, right?
Yes. So currently, right now, we have about a $8 million approved exemptions. That is, if you were to look, I did include that in our handout. If you were to look into that handout given to you there, I believe it should be there.
Yep. So you're showing what, about a 3.7% exemption?
No. So the assessments this year is about 540 million, 540,000 assessed values, but there was an $8 million different approved exemption. So the 531, 575, 700 includes the exemptions that have been approved already. The county does send out a list with the percentage of how much they're exempting. But to answer your question, yes, the county gives me the percentage. They tell me it's either 100% or 75%, 50% of how much they're exempting, and that's what we honor as well. It's all county approved, county controlled. Because we are looking at this form, we will have a public hearing on this coming Monday, where the residents will have the ability to discuss their thoughts on the real estate tax rate. This is the scenario right now that in past has helped council to kind of see what the numbers will look like if we were to reduce it, maintain it, or equalize the rate. Currently, with the projects that we have expected to go forward with, just maintaining at the flat tax rate is what we're hoping to work on this budget with. Okay. Going on to the next section, the other taxes. One of the transient occupancy tax. That's just we're projecting a $350,000 revenue for next year, which is $50,000 more than this current year. As you can see, based out of the trends in the past, that is still being a little conservative, and that also being with the unknowns that we currently are in the economy. Right now, it is pretty strong. The number of 265 actuals are actually as of February's collections, up to February's collections. I also included a quick little visual as to how we come to those numbers. I, on the back end, do track it every year per month. So you guys can kind of see where I kind of work with information I kind of work with and how I track it. Currently, we are on track to be similar to last year's, maybe, if anything, maybe a little bit more. But last year it was a one-off due to the fact that they did have a tournament going on. That obviously this year I think they only had one, but I don't think it was as major as the first one they had in prior year. The next change within this department revenue is the meals tax. I have also included a graph in there kind of showing you the trend lines for the meals tax. This year, I believe we are beginning to see a more consistent revenue streamline. I do know there's potentially more businesses that do want to come into town. New ownership's changing as well. With this number, though, I definitely want to be a little bit more conservative as well, because again, as I had spoken to some of the council members, the concern is to how if the county were to go with removing their meals tax, how that would affect our numbers. This year, Trend wise, we're projecting to be similar or a little bit higher than last year. But again, because if whatever the county decides won't take place until the mid year in our tax and our budget, just trying to be a little bit conservative, but yet acknowledging that there will be an increase in taxes. I mean, increase in revenues. Apologies. Any questions on that one? Okay. Going down to the fines and forfeitures, another change here. Chief will talk more on this when it gets to his department, but the e-summons, if this were to go through, he's projecting about a $10,000 revenue streamline there. So definitely want to capture there separate from the fines. So that is what that $10,000 there is for.
And that's line item 3140-02.
Correct. That'll be a new line item that the budget will see as well. Another big revenue source too that we've been seeing the past couple of years is our interest on our use of money, which basically our bank interests. Obviously, with the rates going down and changing, and as the town will be using about 1.1 million of our cash on hand due to fully using all the ARPA funds, remaining ARPA funds for this next project, that will start to not be as high as a return. I feel like the 103 is still yet something that we can still obtain. But obviously that is something that we will keep an eye on as well. The next section will be the rental properties. This is addressing all the current tenants that we have. Some have signed new leases as well. Some are continuing their 5-year lease as well, just addressing their increases per the lease agreement. We have also included the Arts Van Gogh, as you can see there. Their lease though will end mid-year, so the funds you see they're projected are only for 6 months of this fiscal year. Okay. The next section we have on our revenues, the second page. Yes.
I've got a question, and Roberto, it's probably going to be more to Chief than it would be to you. So we're showing a line item for 10,000 on e-summons. What is the projections on what that savings is going to be over a 3-year run rate, 2-year run rate, 5-year run rate? That's what I'm kind of wondering is, it takes money to spend money, or you got to spend money to make money, but at the same time, is there a positive on this as well?
There is. I don't have an exact number for you as far as a positive. I can put some figures together, but for sure it is a cost savings. Not to mention the best aspect that is return on and investment on the road as far as time spent on traffic summonses. So you get more patrol time out of your officers by spending less time on reports or summonses or whatever else they would do. So there's a return of investment there as well. But as far as a cost savings, I don't have any exact figure for you, but there would definitely be a cost savings on that. And then the program itself on the revenue side won't be totally self-sufficient. It could become self-sufficient. I'm not saying it won't never be, but it could get to the point where it is self-sufficient. At the very least, it is a huge offset. If we go forward with the program on the revenue side, initiating the town ordinance to where we can recoup $5 per summons issued from the person who has the summons issued to them. So there is a cost benefit as well as that, and an offset that is not incumbent upon the town.
The big side of it's I guess I refer to it as soft costs. It's the manpower side of things.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, that goes along with our initiative to try to keep this a pedestrian-friendly town. Traffic mitigation, speed mitigation, and all those factors as well. There's a lot of positives in it, but as far as a figure as cost savings on return of investment on that, I can't give you at this time, but I can just tell you that there would be one.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to the second page. One of the bigger changes you'll see is in our town events. These numbers were actually discussed and given by the events coordinator, Julia Crawford. She, along with the town manager, sat down and kind of went through her own budget. Now that she's in her second year, she was able to better track and better have a better idea on what we could expect with her events. We will see an increase from 124,000 overall to 133,000. We will be tracking the revenues as well as the holiday market this year, just because it has become a popular event that vendors are wanting to be a part of. Similar to the farmers market last year, we started 2 years ago. We started tracking that as well, so we can see what the cost will be that she collects or it expends out due to the farmers market. Any questions on that one? Again, another note too is in this section, we also have allocated some funds when it comes to the apologies. That's going to be an expenditure side, but the police department, we do use some of the TOT funds to also facilitate some funds for the police events as well, which are tracked separately, but yet under the events.
It seems like the sponsorships are increasing.
Yes. Okay. One of the sections towards the bottom, this is something that I had spoken to finance as well as the individual council members that I have been able to meet with. You will see in orange, you'll see some new items that we have not previously had in our budget. The reason why I highlighted those is just to draw attention to that, but also these are going to be funds that are basically using reserve funds for one-time things or restricted to certain expenses. The first major one would be, you see the use of funds for debt service. This is basically to show that we do plan on having the funds at all times throughout the fiscal year to pay the loan proceeds once we get into it. The 66,150 could change depending on what the final number is. That's basically going off the number from the financial analysis that Steve Milroy and David did. They said that year one would probably be more of interest payment versus an actual principal and interest. So we went with that assumption just to already kind of have an idea what it would look like in the budget.
All right, and that's line item 4003.
Correct. Going on to the second use of funds balance would be a contingency. This is something that in the past 5 years, I've noticed that we have been falling into a position where when we budget, there's certain emergencies that happen, be it a building, water main break, or snow removal. It's in hopes to save time. Obviously, with a new project going on as well this coming year, hopefully with the town center master plan, the thought was to create a contingency fund that will be funded by reserves for emergency use only. But this basically it would help us shave off some time and be able to be reactive a lot quicker versus currently. I think you all know the past 2 years we've had to have public hearings when we need to amend the budget for emergency use. It could take anywhere from 1 to 2 months for it to be actually executed, for the town manager to be able to approve a project if need be. So this would be basically to save us time. It would still be controlled by the approval, needing an approval from council, but yet we hope to get a policy where if it's an emergency, we do have the show where we will pull the funds from, and it'll be more of a conversation and vote to amend to move the funds over to the snow removal policy. If we needed more money for snow removal, the TM could be able to go ahead and approve it, letting council know, make them aware of it, and then the very next meeting, request a budget amendment to address that line item.
So much like what we experienced this last season,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct. We had a few emergencies.
I mean,
You know,
yes, I
what-
should say snow season.
Correct. But also it could have been used for when the HVAC issue and we had a tenant there and we needed an emergency repair. And, you know, she could have used these funds to do that without having to go through a meeting.
Okay.
Though the council, we got lucky in a position that the tenant was ready to break that lease as well. You know, there's other cases where tenants are still there and we still need to address the issues in the past. In prior councils, not this one, we had to go through that scenario as well. So just trying to address some of those time-sensitive issues.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yes.
I know before we go in front of the public Monday night with this, can a procedure be written? So at least we have the procedure ready to go. We have a documented procedure on how to get the approvals after the fact, things like that.
We can have a,
We can have a draft.
That's fine. I
Um,
just think, I
yeah.
think we need you should have them hand in hand, you know?
Draft policy. Mhm.
yep, we could do that.
Okay.
Right now, you'll see it though as a 0 from the reserves. First, let me talk about the next part, and then we'll get to, I guess. But the other one that we have here, use of funds consultant. This is for the comprehensive plan. We're hoping to budget 50,000 coming out of reserves. It's going to be a one-time consultant. That's to assist on the comprehensive plan that the town needs to do. It's about time. It's been years since everyone's wanted that done, but we've never had the funds to do so. Now that we're looking ahead to actually fund it and to show clearly where the funds will be based out of. With that being said, though, the reason why it's showing a currently no money's there is because we had to present a balanced budget. I know on the strategic planning, one of the goals, priorities was the compensation plan. We still don't have that completed yet. I know it's still in the works. But once that is completed, some of these things, since they're one-time use or one-time needs, will be funded via the reserves. As far as the compensation, it'll be, funded by operational revenues.
I'm a little confused. These are separate line items. I understand, like you said, it's the reserve money, but you categorize these into a revenue?
No, these are not revenues. These are just showing the use of funds. So monies, it's just to make a budget to know where it's coming from. So it's still
Exactly.
pulling reserves, but that'll always be a 0 because the monies are there. But to show it for budget purposes on the expenditures, they have to match where the monies are coming from.
Okay, so you're just paralleling line
Correct.
items, one for revenue,
Addressing
one
where
for
it's coming
expense.
from. Yep, directing exactly where it's coming from, lining it up.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was wondering why this was in a revenue, in the revenue category.
That's the reason why it's not, I have it separate where it's a use of funds balance to direct, to correlate that to the public that it's not expected revenue, it's just more of the reserve funds.
Okay,
And I did want to keep it separate just because in the past, I don't want to commingle. I want to be very transparent as to what the funds are being used for directly, so they match up. Well, in total, the operational budget this year from its current budget will go up by 3.1%. Any questions on that? Okay, going on to the expenditures. The first department is the town council. This is going to align a lot with the travel policy that I know we're going to be speaking on later on today. But basically, nothing's changed much on the town council with the exception of continuing funding council's continuing education and getting back the salaries back to where they originally were. As you recall, this current year and past year, this current fiscal year, we did have to move some funds around in order to get people to attend some of these events in October. So we did move funds from the salaries into the convention, education, and travel. But that's just to line back up for the standard, no more than 3 meetings a month for the next fiscal year. And also including more funds for the convention and education, due to the fact that the expectation is with the new council potentially coming through, since it's a election year. Just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to attend any educational courses that they want to take. On the next line, the next section is the administration department. Currently, right now, we're proposing is a 2.8% COLA and plus a 3% merit. The merit is a maximum 3%. Doesn't mean that it's based off evaluation, so it's not a guarantee. It also does include a full-time planner position. Currently, we do have a part-time planner, but I think this next fiscal year, our TM is looking into convert that into a full-time position. Yes, I
What
believe
line item is that?
that is line item is 12-11001.
And that topic will come up in
Later in
the
the
work
agenda.
session agenda as well, for more detail.
On this department, some of the notes on the side kind of address on what the increases are for. This year, we did see a 22.7 increase when it comes to the health insurance. But this year too, I'm also preparing for a potential addition to the health insurance with the full-time position. But it doesn't mean that it will be fully used. These increases are pretty much aligning with what we have been proposed and what the renewals are going to be for this coming year. The pre-audit work, that's one that's going to increase. There's more work that needs to be done, but every year there's an increase on the pricing to just hopefully to address that for the next year. I know that this year our TM is working to get this asset management program installed and ready to go this current fiscal year. But we're also going to incur an operational cost annually of the subscription. So that's why you see a $7,000 increase when it comes to subscriptions for that, to address that specifically. Any questions so far?
Very good.
On legal, this is based out of the firm's new pricing. One thing I could say is that this past 2-3 years, I think that we've had these pass-through costs to address some of the reviews they have to do has helped us be able to control more on how much of the legal services we actually need to use when it comes to planning. But so the increase this year will be to $104,300.
And that's just based on what the firm is increasing on contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The following page is the police department. Again, on the police department, we are proposing a 2.8 COLA increase plus a potential 3% a merit-based increase. In total, it'll be a 5.8 to the individuals. With that being said, because those wages will change, we'll also see an increase for the holiday pay. Actually, let me have Chief. Do you want to talk about your department on some of these changes?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, like Roberto said, is that with the increase in salary, we also see an increase in the holiday pay, potentially some overtime, but we'll be able to manage. And then you'll see an adjustment if we go down. I'm only going to address the areas of change. Line 0007 DMV grant. That is just to reflect what the current grant was written for. You see a 22% decrease, but that current grant doesn't involve the equipment that we purchased last year. So that's the reason for a reduction there. And then if you look down to 0012 salaries part-time admin, obviously you know that we have a part-time administrative assistant, and then a part-time fleet manager. We want to introduce another part-time admin position to coincide with the other one instead of trying to bring on a full-time. The one part-time administrative assistant I have only wishes to work a couple of days a week. She really doesn't want to be here the whole week. So this other individual that we would like to bring on is fully qualified as well, and then would also be able to help us with the front desk when we do the joined entry point up front. So kind of like a desk sergeant, but also dabbling in events and accreditation and other administrative duties. And then as we come down, again, health insurance increase that Roberto's already somewhat talked about. And then if you go down to 0032, computer internet website, we did an allowance for software that we would need for that in that area. You'll see that it says monthly, but we actually asked for a total of $10,000 increase in that line item. So the 2,500 would be like a quarterly, and of course that number is slightly inflated. We don't know exactly what that number will be, but we feel that that would cover it. And then you'll see down meals, lodging, convention education, 0037, 0038. Slight adjustment for college, or well, command college course. It's not an actual college course, even though you do get credits for it. It's a nationally known command school that I would like to go to. And then you'll see there below, when it comes to the Academy, IBR2, traffic solutions, that is basically for our subscriptions for our those items. The Academy we have to pay for by officer, our IBR P1 RMS reporting system, and then traffic solutions is for our street signs and message boards, so that we can have the data that we use that you'll see later in my report when we talk about speed and traffic flow and traffic volume. That's what that, and then the other side of the e-summons is for an equipment and subscription as well, more hardware type. And then coming down to 0042, vehicle fuels. As many of you know, I put in for full take-home policy. We currently have a hybrid policy. We're for Councilman Capicello, is that we the officers take their vehicles home when they're working, but they do not take them home when they're not working. So if they're on for a 2-day shift, they take it home, come back, take it home. Then when they come back, they leave it. This would be for a full take home. Obviously this, and I presented it as a retention measure to try to stay competitive in the market that we're in. Of course, marketing and police is very difficult right now, trying to find qualified applicants. But there is a second part to it that is a small piece I'll just mention, is that there's also a somewhat safety aspect. We've actually noticed here, especially lately, that officers are responding to calls because they hear them in the radio while they're on the way to work to back up other officers. Now, of course, it has to be the perfect storm for that. There has to be a call that's happening right when that officer is coming to work. But believe it or not, it's happened a handful of times in the last month, shockingly so, including me. I was working patrol. We were short, and we had a community safety camera hit on a missing person. I got out with her who had PTSD, has some real issues, and asked for a Prince William officer to back me up at Sheets. And the next thing I know, Scott is pulling in because he was on his way to work and heard the call. So there is that as well. There is a safety issue that you can look to that as well. And then the last portion under the police supplies is the e-summons, the other portion of that. So you have a total of around $20,000 placed in different areas for the e-summonses, which includes reverse interfacing, which includes the hardware, the software, and then the data storage as well. So even though it's spread out over that area, I don't believe we're going to be spending $20,000. I would say safely a minimum of 12. But we still have to build that in because we haven't chose a vendor yet. We're still in the interview process with that. We've interviewed with 2 vendors so far. And then we're actually trying to make sure before we jump in with anybody that the system will coexist with our RMS system with that reverse interfacing. That's a very important factor. It does no good to become more efficient and then still be hand data entering some of the information. We want everything to have workflow and it's done. With no matter what the system we pick, we'll have that with the Supreme Court. We just need to make sure that it fits our RMS system and works well with it, and then also make sure that we can go through the bleed through with Prince William County since they're the parent with our RMS system. So we have to make sure all these things are in place before we can commit to any specific vendor. So, okay.
Quick question for you.
It don't have to be quick. I've scheduled the whole night here.
You said that for the take-home policy, you say here in the note that it's with the existing radius policy. What is the radius right now?
60 miles. 60 miles. We don't let them go outside of 60 miles. And of course, that's also it's better for insurance on that. You don't want to go any further for that. So we felt that that's a good place, and that's where a lot of departments are that have a take-home policy. And of course, there's other departments that's more stringent than that. So, but to paint the full picture, that's why we went with that, which was, I think, 2 years ago that we actually put that policy into place. It was more of an unwritten rule at that point for the hybrid program, but we wanted to have it on paper, a good policy. Of course, the town manager was all about doing that. So that's why we went forward and have that policy in place now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Ken.
The health insurance, it's showing the standard increase, but you also have here a little caveat saying with a vacant position. I'm assuming we did a worst case on that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Moving forward, the trash contract. As you recall, we did a 5-year contract. The maximum annual increase we can see is a 4% unless they try to renegotiate that due to a few factors. I believe gas, also if there's a tipping fee change. Currently, I believe the county is not looking to do a tipping fee increase. So I have not heard back yet from the contractors, but I went with the highest, just to be safe, 4% that per the contract states they can go with. If that changes though, I will definitely update everyone and the budget as well.
So the 4% was based on the contract.
Correct. And I believe that contract is good until 2029, but I will verify that as well and put it on the comments on the side so everyone's aware when that contract's up. Okay. The next page, on page 5, next change, the first change you'll see is in the tourism. This is based off the TOT. Obviously, by going out to 350, the expected $350,000 expected revenues, we will also see the tourism monies change as well, increase. Again, this is the 3/7 that goes back to the hotel. And then the other 2/7 is that goes into the town tourism. The other remaining 2% is the funds that go spread out throughout the general fund. That's what we're pulling $700-800 for to go towards the community, the police department's events for the community within the the events budget department. Any questions on this section there? Okay. As we have spoken, just stated the events, you can see the side note on the right, explain how we came with that funds for the police department events. Okay.
That's a lot of water balloons.
I
Okay.
actually bought some, I bought them this weekend.
Okay, under the community development department, you will see an increase, estimated increase when it comes to the town's engineer. As the notes, comments state on the side is mainly due to the project, the town center project. Katie has always been the lead project manager for any town projects. So it's just to try to address that. The time she'll be gearing as well as the normal engineering stuff she needs to do, but as well as the project management she'll be addressing when it comes to that project. Here's where we are also showing the budget that we are expecting for the consultant to work directly for the comprehensive plan, update plan. On the next page, specifically on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think Vice Mayor would like this. I think we talked about this, but one new line item we're adding to this is actually getting BZA its avenue of getting legal representation. I believe.
I can speak to that if you want me to.
I'll let the TM
Yeah.
speak on that.
Thank you.
Yes, so for those of you who are not as familiar, the Board of Zoning Appeals operates to hear applications that have been appealed if it's a zoning administrator decision, or even sometimes a notice of violation, they start to appeal through that process. And so what ends up happening is that we have our legal services that we've retained as the town who act as a representation of the zoning administrator and the actions that were taken by that zoning administrator. And then the person who's appealing the process or the applicant, they would come in and they usually have their own legal representation. But then the board sits without legal representation. It's important that that body acts kind of in its own. They're hearing both sides of it. They're acting as the judge, if you will, of the case. They're hearing what the applicant has to say. They're hearing what the zoning administrator did as the duty of the town. And so it would be best to equip them with all the resources they need to include legal representation that is separate of the town's legal services. We have had a previous case where it was not advantageous for the Board of Zoning Appeals. During their conversations, they were having to make some decisions that they really could have benefited from. Direct legal representation sitting up there with them. So we put a small amount in. We don't often, knock on wood, we don't often have BZA cases. We are actively also looking to have some more training and educational opportunities for that board along with all of our other boards. So Kim is working diligently to identify resources in education and training, and that too will go a long way in helping those members feel confident in the roles and duties that they're assigned.
Do we anticipate on the BZA, if we're going to have them have legal representation, would that be from a separate law firm than our current town attorneys?
I
Do
would
we
say
envision that?
yes. I would say that is a very high potential that we would be looking for outside of our current firm, just to give them the utmost, separation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any way to piggyback in with Prince William County training on BZA? I don't know what kind of programs they have, but have you talked to the CXO on that?
So the biggest problem that we have when it comes to training is that so many of you guys work full-time jobs. And so it is very hard to incentivize someone who has a full-time position to also take time off of work, take vacation time to do training. A lot of those trainings that other jurisdictions do, such as Prince William, they're done through VCU. We have looked into the programs. It's always encouraged if someone's interested, right? We want to work with them. We want to fund it. But what we're finding, even on our planning commission as well, is that there is a work conflict with these trainings. So what we have identified, though, is some different Robert's Rules of Order trainings, different trainings for our chairs and our vice chairs for all of our board to include mayor, vice mayor. So kind of really working with, starting there in the parliamentarian roles, starting with Robert's Rules, and then also providing resources for content that are specific to the boards.
Okay, because I was assuming because they're a bunch of volunteers for the county as well, and I was assuming that maybe the county geared up to having night classes or something for their training.
I can circle back with them. I think they're still using VCU as their big thing, and a lot of those I believe are still weekend courses too, like doing several over weekends.
And even though we would piggyback onto it, we'd still be paying for it, but it's always best cost when you're looking at a larger scale, right?
And we might be more successful. I'll bring it up at our next TNV meeting. We may be more successful when it comes to partnering with other townships. But I'll still ask at the county level, see what our CXO has to say, but I'll also investigate. And I know Mayor will be at TNV next meeting as well, and we'll ask that question.
100%.
That'd be good.
Yes.
Okay, on the non-departmental section, here's where we created the contingency line item. Right now, it's showing higher than what we have been discussing earlier due to the fact that this is showing what operationally, the operational revenues that we are anticipating. Obviously, the concerns with finance committee is always based off this compensation study, the sustainability for the future, not just now. It shows that the town is in a great position as some of these contingencies are one-time off things. Same thing with the consulting firm. I don't know where that will land, but if it just shows that we may not even need to tap into our reserves in order to create a contingency line item as well as fund this one-time consultant as well. So just wanted to showcase that on this budget. It does show also where you will see the expected debt obligation for the town center project, how it would be paid and tracked is similar prior to the prior years. Any questions on this section currently?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay. So this budget, the town's been now in a position now that has been in a position in a while now that tracking CIP separately from the operational budget has always been a conversation piece. And this year, I definitely wanted to address it. As you can see, operationally, the operational side of the budget will be an increase of about 3.1%. Obviously, this year, I feel like we have done a lot of work with the finance committee to try to better be more better showcase how the funds are being held and used. One of the matters is that, creating a new CIP account and strictly for the CIP projects. These other revenues are basically showcasing that as they're not things that are part of the annual operational expenditures, more one-off things or monies that we have that are not based off operations. One of them being the ARPA funds. We have spoken how going forward with the town center project, 50% of it will be based out of using ARPA, fully using the ARPA funds and some of the transportation proffers for the turn lane. So that's what is showing here, that we will finally start funding it towards that. On the development funds though, we will also it also shows the park and recs. It's about $443,000 going towards the engineering of the town park. Excuse me. Going lower, the capital improvement funds. This is to address what we are hoping that this next budget we are able to address per our CIP schedule. I know that this could probably change though, as I think the TM has brought it up to the Planning Commission for the first stab at it in discussion. I know she's working on addressing some of their questions, concerns, and wants. So we'll be working on updating that and obviously bringing it back to them on the 14th. And then obviously ultimately it will come up to any suggestions or requests will be brought back up to council as part of the adopted budget. On the,
Quick question.
yes,
When I look at this, the town website, is the anticipation that will be funded in this fiscal year?
Cost savings. So Julia actually has everything pretty much done with the whole new website redesign. We are having to work through getting our information on our host, kind of getting back into that so that we can make the turnover. We were supposed to go live with the new website last week, but it has been pushed until we can figure that out. So on the website, I don't think that you're actually going to be seeing this $50,000 expense. We have, again, revamped it. It's all working within our current subscription. So there will be a minor adjustment to our subscription services, but that does not happen in the immediate this year. It's over the course of a couple years. So again, this is a service we've paid for through Civic Plus, and they're working with us. So I believe this will be a full cost savings unless the council were to decide you want a brand new, completely different service, then we would change.
So this would not include if we go from a .org to a .gov domain, correct?
So we're still working towards that. Everything we need to do is kind of just on the back end when it comes to the proper paperwork, documentation, proof of government. So that's not in that 50,000. That's in our general operating costs. So we're very hopeful to get that done before the end of the fiscal year. We're trying.
So back to talk about, I'm all with you in agreement on the .gov, but something I noticed when I was trying to get in touch with George Stewart was Prince William County's on a .org.
Are they?
Yeah.
PWC.
The e-form to submit, to communicate with him is a .org. I was surprised by that, actually.
PWC.gov.org.
Okay. Didn't know that.
I gotta look it up. Now I want to make sure I have it.
Sorry, now I need to check.
no, oh, Prince William County. I don't know.
The website is pwcva.gov. I think that they are fully .gov. I'm going to pull up an email real quick and check as well. They should all be
Just for
.gov.
him as the,
Maybe.
Having a hard time.
No,
No.
because Rebecca found the email.
Oh,
Rebecca was
okay.
getting the emails.
Okay, sorry.
He just wasn't responding.
So their emails are still a .org.
Yeah, their emails are still at our, so the main is the
Gov.
.gov, but all the emails are .org. It's interesting, you know?
It could be one of those things where they
Transition.
maybe just recently updated it.
Could
and
be.
They're doing that forwarding for a year or two. I believe Ralph, our IT person, said that's something we would also be doing to get people to get used to the change.
So it would
Yeah.
just transfer over, it would forward.
Yes,
So to speak.
or at least I think he said a year or two.
At least,
I
yeah.
believe that's how it would run.
Okay.
Yeah, his email is gainesville@pwcgov.org, yeah.
Mhm. I didn't know that. Interesting.
It's interesting though, you know?
But
But
knowing that
we
we would have
have
to do that for a
seen-
couple of years just to make certain nothing is lost in transition.
Yeah, and we've done that in the past. Like, for example, when I got married, I still have my old email forward to my new one because it always happens. So we would ensure that, took place. But it is one of those,
Hey, chief, look out.
Somebody got pulled over.
it is one of those measures that we are working towards completing. As we know, it was of more importance when we had those discussions, along with the website discussions.
His website is a .com too, which I think is interesting. GainesvilleSupervisor.com, GainesvilleDistrictSupervisor.com. That must be something he set up.
He set that up,
Yeah.
or I think it was set up years ago for that office.
All right.
Nothing
We're
else
good,
from you?
good on the website
Go on
discussion?
the website.
Yep.
Yep, thank
Okay.
you.
And just while we're on it very, very briefly, so you'll see new things coming out on it. We will ensure when you guys know that it's live. And then if there's any change in costs that we expect for this budget, of course, we'll report back monthly and to our finance liaisons, but we don't foresee any right now.
Anything else? All right.
As long as you're using the good pictures of us for the website.
Yes.
And last thing,
There were none of them taken for me.
kind of back on CIP, just so that you guys are aware. So Chief and I have worked together. We have put some edits into the CIP document. And so that is what we're taking back to the Planning Commission April 14th. We did some housework cleanup. I have a draft that's still going to show projects that we completed so that I can put notes in there that it'll be phased out and closed out, such as the town hall signage above our door and as well as the police department door. So we're cleaning that document up. It was brought to our attention from the Planning Commission that they would like to see incorporated into the CIP conversations on the sidewalk on Jefferson Street and improvements specifically at the corner of Jefferson and Payne Lane. Along that block, a battery is going bad in our, sorry. And then as well as on Fayette Street, also looking at sidewalk improvements along the Fayette Street corridor, north and south of Washington Street. So those have both been added and will be taken back April 14th.
Thank you.
So we have all set for general discussions for line items, or
I was just gonna do the last one, the last
Okay.
section. Okay.
we'll let you do that first
Yep.
then.
So, okay, so in talking about capital improvements, you will see here too that we are also beginning to track this capital improvements on its own section. One of the biggest things we have here is obviously the police department. As you guys know, this the staggered schedule when it comes to the vehicles with the new purchases of dash cams and the body cams. We made a note on the right side, kind of detailing what that 121,800 is for. Obviously, the Washington Streetscape is something that's part of the CIP. These are all being funded through the CIP funds that we have set aside with its own account. In total, when it comes to other revenues, we're looking at a 3,315,464. With this combined, the operational and this other expenditures, this budget will be about 7.5 million 0529. 2,943,000 of it though is due to the town center project when it comes to that, and as well as the park engineering of the park. Well, is there any specific questions on a specific line item or anything? We are here to hopefully address and answer them.
I feel like Ken has a couple.
Yes,
I
yes.
was like, I feel like Ken has a couple.
Yeah. Hopefully you're all prepared.
We're ready.
Because, one thing I was discussing with you guys earlier was the blight mitigation line items.
Yes. Can you reference the line items for me, please?
Okay, 94, 171.
Page number?
6, pretty much close to the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, as you know, we got you wanting to propose full-time town planner, which gives them more activity to do zoning violations and start to poke on that. So I really see us finally using this line item as an expense for some of the activity that goes on there. And I really think that 5,000 is a little bit small. That would probably cover one legal letter.
So a question I have for council's discussion, is it of council's wish that we track the legal services for different zoning violations under this line item? Currently, how we track it is under our regular legal services. So we're happy to accommodate, move some money maybe out of the regular legal services into blight mitigation. I just want to understand how it's desired that we track it. I do see the discussion point as well, as sometimes in these processes, we get past the legal letter portion and then we now need to take action. We are pretty close on one case currently where we are in need of taking action, and then later a lien is put on the property. So also capturing that amount that we're having to pay out and where it's being paid out from.
So are you saying that it actually crosses the line of the initial and then what we would need to do to follow up with? So that line item of 5,000 is possibly set for the initial aspect of it. And then to track it better within legal services, it needs to be within our legal line item?
So let me say it back to you, but the complete opposite.
Okay.
So the way I have always understood this line item to work since I've been here is that we start under legal services and we do our notices of violation and we do those proper notifications. That work is charged to regular legal services. And then within our invoicing and billing, we have it tracked separate. So we know and could run a report for you on how much we've spent on violations. This line item here, 994,10701, that 5,000, to my understanding, was for that second step when we need to hire services or other individuals to come in and do work on the property. That's how I've always understood this.
And you're saying you don't feel that that's enough?
Well, yeah, that's how it was pretty much laid out way back when. But
Okay.
now it's kind of like, okay, what do we want to do with this line item, right? Do we want to consider it all-inclusive when it comes to any type of a zoning violation or blight condition? Or, granted, this is all virtual pots of money, right? And it's a matter of, do we want to show representation here through, giving them the capability of, applying it to other things? But, that also brings up the issue of creating a definition for what this is, right? So
Yes.
you understand what you can actually charge to it.
Exactly. And I think that part of that conversation is this all of the types of different zoning violation letters, or is this strictly blighted properties, blighted structures? And so I've always understood it to only be blighted structures, whereas we are sending violation letters for overgrowth of grass, accumulation of trash, which in their own right can cause blight problems. So I think we need direction and definition.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I'm raising is, before we used to always keep this at about 50,000, just because if you ever have a trigger in which you got to spend money,
Yeah.
50,000 is minimal to try and do any type of house repair, right?
Is our current policy don't we have draft policies in regards to transferring monies within departments? Not yet.
Not
Okay, that's what we're looking at. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the question is, we reduced it because we never used it. Do we foresee using it now that we have an opportunity with a land planner who might become full-time?
Mhm.
And
I
do we want to still guardrail this strictly for expenses for any type of action taken to stage 2, right?
Right.
What would your proposed dollar amount be?
I don't know. I just
It's
think
not the 50.
five looked kind of low.
I think what I would like to see is the expansion of the category to also be able to include those violations that might be more nominal, overgrowth of grass, those items, because, that always comes with a cost if we're having to do that work.
So maybe change the title to like blight and zoning violation mitigation,
Yes.
blight and zoning mitigation.
I also feel like you're asking for a definition of blight.
Yeah.
Yes, and I can get with the ordinance and the code, and I can pull those sections that I think should be applicable for this funding. And then I'm just trying to kind of think of what we've seen.
Yeah, you also see future activity that's starting to come up and where
Yeah.
the real pain points will be. And I'm assuming you might have some type of ballpark figure that would be best to increase this to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd almost recommend putting it at 20,000 or 25, if council can back that. I think some of the things we've seen over the last, I'm gonna speak at the time I've been here, 8 years, is we have turnover in some of those blighted properties that we previously had. While it's been slow, it's definitely triggered change throughout the town. Knowing what I know and what's coming in application wise, I am very familiar with at least 2 properties that I think sooner rather than later we would see a change in ownership of, and thus it would also be a change in the blighted structure. And lastly, we've also had a lot of resource assistance with Prince William County Neighborhood Services helping with some of these other violations. But certainly they cannot enforce zoning ones. So that still leaves us with an opening. I would recommend 20 or 25, a total of 20 or 25.
So then that would leave the question of where does that 20,000 come from?
Mhm. And so right now, it can be a discussion of if you pull it from the current contingency fund item, or if you're looking at modifying other line items.
That's right. You can even discuss conservative estimates on revenue, right?
Maybe I make another pitch.
Mhm.
So comprehensive plan, it's number 3 on our strategic plan priority. One of the sole backings and discussion points that I'll get to later on in the meeting for the planner position going full time is that we will have someone in-house who can dedicate time to a comprehensive plan. So part of this, again, discussion later in the meeting, is that I want to require a minimum of 8 hours a week being strictly comprehensive plan. And so a lot of work can be done internally. We will still want to and need to hire a consultant to come in to refine portions of it, maybe lead a public charrette, maybe at the end of it, produce that glossy document that we're looking for. So you might decide that, there could be a change in that proposed line item. Maybe you don't need the full 50 for FY27. Maybe we start with a portion of it so that in the spring of 2027, we could look at doing a public charrette. I don't think that's going to run you $50,000 for a couple public engagement meetings. But that would be timing wise, that's when we would be ready for those kinds of funds to come into play. So I think you could see a change in that line item as well. Again, with the heart of the work being wrapped into that full-time position with 8 hours a week required and a deliverable required to be shown as well. If you took 15 from there, that would leave you 35 and in the consultant for a comp plan, and then that would give you the 20 in blight mitigation, still keeping it in the same realm of zoning.
That's leaving that line item at 25. Yes?
That's leaving that line item at 35, correct?
35.
Is it 35? Hold on, I got my calculator.
35 for that, but then it would put it at 25
At
for
20.
blight. Or
20.
20 for blight, okay.
Yeah.
Question for you, just, and I'm going to go to the revenue side. I just want to make sure I understand the Washington Street Realty building. Are we budgeting zero income from that for the full fiscal year?
At this time, we are, but where we are plan-wise is that we have an RFP. I'm coming to council with that discussion and looking for a directive as early as next week for it to be blessed and posted. And we move forward with that construction RFP, do the work the right way, and then be able to post it as soon after. But I don't think right now we can estimate how long that can take. So we're planning for the worst case in that and hoping for the best that it'll be rented as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So your time frame. So you're going worst case, which is no revenue this year.
That's correct. But again, hoping for that to be a change that we come to you guys with.
I've been talking as we've been going. so
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Anything else?
No.
So
Any feedback on taking money from the comp plan? Everyone
I
is
was gonna
happy with
say,
that?
are you guys happy with that?
I'm on board with that.
No objection.
Okay.
It's fine with me. I mean, it shows a statement. And like I said, it's a virtual pot of money anyways. That's going to be shifted through the year depending on where it's really needed.
35.
That was an increase to 20 or 25?
20.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Increase of 15 for a total of 20.
Total of 20.
I just wanted to double check that. I heard it.
I was doing the same thing. It was 5,000.
Math is hard.
It's not in the spreadsheet, so I don't see it. I have Excel open in front of me.
So do we have any other further questions as far as the budget?
See.
Currently?
I'm good.
No additional questions.
Right. Any additional input from you, Roberta?
No. If there's any further questions, though, I will do the updates and have it at the next meeting on Monday.
Okay.
We'll include this updated version. And obviously, if there's any questions, please let me know. I'm here to speak, as well as any residents that want to come in and kind of go through the budget, kind of get a better understanding. I'm here as well. The plan is to discuss the real estate rate on Monday, give the opportunity to residents to speak on it as well, their thoughts. And the following month, we will have the budget public hearing, as well as with the CIP, hopefully included in that. And yeah, open for discussions as well.
Okay. All right. Well, if we are all good, then we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the town manager's monthly report.
Okay.
Page 2, correct?
Page 2, front and center. Happy to report that I am back from my first Leadership Institute programming end of last week. It was definitely a very wonderful experience. I can't wait to go back. April's all about budget, finance, and strategic planning with Stephanie Davis. So it'll be a fun fun conversation. It's one she has led a time or two that I've heard, and I always gain a new nugget of information. So I'm very excited about seeing her down in Newport News, as well as continuing to work with the team. I did learn that they only let in a certain number of individuals from each region, and the way they pick the region is off of the Virginia Library regions that they set. So from our Region 6 area, which includes Loudoun and Fairfax, kind of the Northern Virginia region, if you will, there's 3 of us that are coming and representing this region. So myself, an individual from Leesburg, and also an individual from Town of Dumfries. So some very close connections, as well as some as far as Town of South Hill, which is almost on the border of North Carolina. So all across the Commonwealth. Some big things have started kind of coming to fruition and taking place. So Town Park Sidewalk, that project is officially closed out. That has been completed there. We'll be wrapping up the final as-built, but as for the actual contract that was hired with M&F Concrete, that is taken care of. So happy to announce that all of the electrical problems for the lights have been resolved. Those should be fully functioning. Also on that note, we did as well have our contractor and our electrician out working on our streetlights. That was a big item that we had talked about at our last work session. So all of the lights along Washington Street now should be fully functional. We are working as we're coming up on our older ones that have been in place for about 20 years now. We're working on retrofitting them so that we have LED bulbs in them, getting to a more efficient standard. So that is being taken place over the course of the different repairs. We are in good working condition. We do need to work with 1 or 2 property owners. So some of our lights are tied into time clocks within a building, specifically one right here at the Remax building, which we kind of call it the Remax building, but it's the brick building near Giuseppe's. Theirs is tied into a time clock inside, and it keeps getting inadvertently turned off. So we need to work with them. We are hoping to make contact with the property owner and get a photo cell put in so that everything is external of the building and it's relying on a photo cell. Most of our other lights are on photo cells, and so that's when you'll see most of them coming on at the same time versus when they're on a time clock, and you'll see some delay on certain blocks. So working through that. Any questions so far on kind of streetscape? Okay. Matt Burrows is working on kind of that spring refresh and renewal. So we are getting ready, gearing up for modifying our planter baskets, putting new material in them. He has most recently worked with Prince William County Water to get a hydrant permit so that we can be a bit more efficient in filling up the water tank. That's also something that we are taking into mind. We are working with the finance liaisons, and Chief is helping us out with looking at purchasing a new maintenance vehicle. We are hopeful to do that this current fiscal year and take care of that under CIP. With that, it would have the appropriate water tank, pump system that's needed on it. I've also talked with Mr. Burrows that we won't be driving on the sidewalk anymore. We'll have the appropriate length of hose, the appropriate pump to get done what we need, and that we'll partner with the police department to ensure that it is safe and traffic is still moving around us, even if that means doing some early summer hours, all of which he was very excited and amenable for. So a new change we're trying to implement this coming year.
That's also a time savings as well,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, when we were pulling water off of our building, it was taking him about 30 minutes to an hour just to fill the tank, and he was having to do that a couple of times a day in order to hit everything. And so when we no longer had the well at the park building, and then we're trying now, because we have a tenant at the museum, we're trying not to use that water source to really be accurate on what they are using. It kind of really put a kink in his plans of summer watering. So trying to address that while still keeping the town beautiful. Hopefully we have just the right amount of rain and not too much, right? Perfect scenario, but we'll see how that plays out. Speaking of rain, our stormwater assessment program, so letters went out to 78 property owners in the town of Haymarket. This is generally speaking on the Jefferson Fayette corridor. And then it also goes over into a portion of Crossroads Village back near the townhouses. So we are receiving a lot of responses to that letter. We are requesting that we have permission to go on the property for the survey work to be completed. For anybody listening, this is all exterior survey work. This is topographic surveying. It is visual surveying of the infrastructure that's there. And it's a determination if the infrastructure is functioning, failing, or operating in good condition. So again, we've had a lot of feedback already. Lydia is doing a great job tracking it. We have a couple individuals who've requested additional information as we get closer to include a more detailed time of when we'll be on site. So kudos to Lydia for tracking the responses and coordination of 78 different property owners. Also on that note, we are doing a good number of zoning inspections and violations. So we have inspections in regards to bond release. We've been quite busy as a couple of our projects are finalized and they are trying to get off bond to include some of their landscaping bonds that they've held in escrow with us, as well as some couple reactive zoning violations that we're able to now get to with the right staff on board who's determined to get it done. So that has been a very wonderful change of course. It is something that we're working hard on cleaning up some of the problem areas that we've had complaints from residents on. These are in the kind of Jefferson Street, Fayette Street area. So far, our property owners have been very willing to work with us, so that's very good. We're not having to take next steps just yet. Right now, everyone is in good coordination. Already kind of discussed the website redesign, so I'm not going to belabor that. We'll continue to update that as we have it. Compensation study. Matt and I are meeting weekly. I believe Matt held the most recent meeting. Do you have an update? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, the only update that came out of last Friday's meeting was that they are planning on being on site in Haymarket, April.
7th and 8th.
She told me that was the following week.
Oh, she changed it.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I want to say like the 12th.
Okay.
That she planned that she will be here for 2 nights. I did ask her, Emily, to touch base with you on lodging accommodations.
Okay.
Suggested lodging accommodations. But no update. I did commit to making myself available as well, just to make sure that I show my face. So I blocked off that day.
Okay. Thank you. Other kind of bigger items, I think the town will be hosting our next TANV meeting. We have a lot of initiatives we are trying to work towards, and we were having a little bit of an issue with the town that was supposed to host, having the time to be able to host us before June. So we are looking at that being April 16th. I will keep everyone posted on how that pans out and being able to hold that meeting. Coming up, I will give a little heads up. It is not in this report because the report came out earlier, but end of last week, we had to call out our HVAC contractor. So if you feel a little warm in here, it's because our air conditioner is not functioning. So we are currently in the process of getting quotes for that. The unit was put in 2012, and so the compressor has now gone bad. We are looking at what the full replacement dollar figure is, and then what I don't want to even call it a Band-Aid approach, but what the approach is to get a new compressor and then see what the full replacement looks like when town hall site work's done. We are trying to go ahead and move forward though with the full replacement and do that as needed. So I'll keep everyone posted on that one. There's also been some HVAC problems in one of our upstairs units as well. So 2 of our systems are failing. So yeah, if there's any questions.
How many systems do we have in this building? 8?
I know for a fact we have 5.
5?
I would have to double check if we have 8. I know we have 5. You don't know. But
We always
hold
seem to
on, hold
have
on.
two go down at the same time.
That
every
we do.
time.
I wanted to add to this though, on a positive note, the asset inventory system is going very well. I'll be completing all of my administration training for it tomorrow. Then I'll start training Matt Burrows on it. And to add to that, I have the cost for the contractor to come in and do the full assessment of all of our buildings and all of the building systems, to include HVAC, those things, so that maybe in future years we can better plan for these failures, or at least see them coming a little bit better. So I guess that's kind of a positive.
Well, it's not a hot flash, so. let's just go
Well,
with
it's
that.
supposed to warm up over the next 3 days, but
Can I ask a quick question on it? I know there's gonna be a cost involved with this work.
yes.
Is there a way we can offset it with town hall renovations? Put it in that, I'm just throwing an idea out there, how to put it under that bucket. It's part of the physical structure that's getting ready to hopefully have its work performed on it. So I'm just throwing
Yeah.
ideas out there and where to pay for it.
So I think we definitely have it covered under the maintenance line items under CIP. So we have the monies available. I think what it's going to end up coming down to is some of our procurement policy. So our procurement policy is a little bit dated in how it's functioning. You'll see we have a draft to discuss tonight. But in this scenario, this one will probably be more of an emergency repair. And then it's that spending threshold.
I'm just trying to figure out where to allocate it to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, renovation, phase one is strictly, site plan,
Right.
so it doesn't include building. So, yeah, emergency funds
Yeah.
is what it's coming
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of detail in the land use and planning section. I hope everyone has felt that they're more updated in this section and getting good updates. So I did want to say kudos to Lydia for providing some good detailed work on keeping everybody updated on all of her work that she's doing. Everything else kind of business as usual. Farmers market, Julia's getting ready to kick that off on April 12th. So that's coming up very soon. Otherwise, it's starting to be a little bit of a busy season. Both of our clerks will be attending clerk conference, so that'll be coming up. We've had to do a little bit of adjustments with different meetings or spring breaks for our, is it ARB? Planning Commission. So taking care of that. So are there any specific questions?
Yeah,
Anything that you want more detail on?
more clarification. South Fayette Street, received resubmission. Is that for site plans or is that for rezoning to break apart property?
That's 2 site plans. So what is currently being proposed, so if you're headed south on Fayette Street and you go past St. Paul's Church and you're right into the curve of Fayette Street, and then it straightens back out right there, the first property in the curve, and then the very next property. It currently looks visually like a single one, but there are 2 skinny empty parcels that were subdivided out. So it is for 2 single-family houses, 1 on each of those skinny lots.
Yeah, because they broke that property up into 3 parcels, right? So the
That's
third parcel
correct.
is still going to stay raw?
The third parcel has that older home sitting on it that has some stone features on it. That one is to remain as it's currently presented.
Okay.
So these 2 are owned by, to my understanding, these 2 are now owned by a different property owner.
Okay.
The older one, as of last week, I do believe it's still on the market as for sale or for rent, but I think it was for sale.
Okay, and the QBE,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's for a rezoning, and it's mainly for planning commission to make a decision for recommendation to pass up to us, right?
That's correct. So we held another follow-up meeting with the applicant, addressed all of the additional comments that came out of Planning Commission, as well as staff and engineering comments with their latest submission. So they're working on their final modifications. We'll be putting that on the April Planning Commission meeting agenda. And then they will be at their April meeting making their recommendation to the town council on the application. From there, we'll work with town council to set that public hearing date. So I'll bring it to you guys most likely at the work session to request the date to be set for the public hearing.
So I noticed this morning when I was heading out that on Jefferson Street, right after you cross 66, on the right-hand side, there's all kinds of fresh surveyor stakes in the ground,
Jordan Lane? No, that's not Jordan. Is that Jordan? Or
just after Jordan.
On the east side. East side?
where
as
they
you
had
head
the
over-
On the
tractor
east side,
trailer?
yes.
Yeah, I can.
That was where they were going to put all the medical buildings years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yes,
what it
they
is
have
now.
since changed it. I will get you an update for what it's proposed for. I believe it's residential.
More traffic on Jefferson.
Right. Any other questions?
I think that's all I had. That's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. All right, that's going to take us to Chief, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello,
Evening,
sir.
Good to be seen. And your haircut is perfect. It's perfect.
Why, thank you.
It's easy to wash my hair in the morning, I can tell you that.
Isn't it though?
That's right.
Sometimes I'm trying to figure bar of soap or shampoo. I just can't figure it out.
Oh, good deal. It was a busy month, as you could see, but the good news on that is that we was able to maintain the call volume and keep a presence in town and actually do the most business checks that we've done any month as tracked since I've been here. So we did a total of 151 calls for service. 10 were reportable, 141 were not reportable. As you can see in the 5-year trend, that's a high March for us, but it's not our peak yet. Our peak was January of last year. But we continue to stay on that trend. As you can see, 4 years ago, we were pretty static across the board, and now we get a little wavy, but we're staying up in that higher call volume. Obviously, we predicted that with the build out of Crossroads and other things. So it's staying true to form. And then you'll see a breakdown on direct contact and combined contact and dispatch calls for service there. If you want to look at that, that will total the 151 calls for service. And then if you move on to business checks, you can see that we did 4,246 this month, which is outstanding. And when you look at the 5-year trend, you can see that we really killed it with that this month. And considering that we had a high call volume as well, and not just a high call volume, we had several of those calls were higher complexity calls, which involved arrest and follow-up investigations. So we kept our average response time for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, which is pretty static. We're usually around 2:30, so not too bad there. I guess the calls came in at the right time, I guess. And then our traffic stops did 101 this month and wrote 41 summonses. Cape provided out 62 warnings. And then you'll see the breakdown of the types of summonses that was written. And then the monthly traffic, as far as the trending data and the 4-year trend, the monthly where we're at, pretty much stay in the middle on that one between the 4-year trend that we're tracking. And then the overall where we'll be at in 2026, you can see the tracking there is the peaks and valleys are pretty much the same. Just a question of how high or how low they go. Grant money is static. The reporting period ends, the quarterly reporting period ends tomorrow. So when you see this report again, you'll get the second quarter of the DMV grant. And for you, on that grant, their first quarter runs October, November, December. So we're always a quarter behind or they're a quarter ahead on us, however you want to look at it.
Yep.
And then you can see in arrest, we had 11 arrests this last month. which was, doubled what we did last month, over double what we did last month. And that's pretty high. Matter of fact, I don't think we've done 11 since I've been here in 1 month. It's
The
not
reason for that? Anything underlying?
just the complexity in the calls, depending on what they were, and then some follow up stuff that we had to do. Everything from a stolen car, sexual assault. There was a stalking case that Chip worked, where the gentleman reoffended right after he was arrested, and so he decided to graduate to a felony on that. Again, so it's just the complexity of calls. There's a lot of calls that you go to and mitigate the circumstances, and there's no need for an arrest, or there's no criminal activity that's risen to an arrest. But this month it was kind of the opposite, that a lot of them, the criminal activity had risen to that occasion, and they met the elements of those crimes that they were charged with. Then you'll see the follow-up investigations or in calls for service hours spent and follow-up investigations. Out-of-town activity remained pretty static. Obviously, that we try to help out our brothers and sisters from Prince William as much as we can, as they do us. Of course, they get more out of us than we get out of them, but it's all good. Then tracking the hours spent on calls for service outside. And then we move into the traffic volume. As you can see, we had that dip in January, February from the ice and the snow, which kind of bound everybody up for about a week. And as you can see now that we've returned back that 8,000 cars that we didn't have the previous month. And then that data is going to trend more consistent, without the intercedence of weather or other natural events. So the traffic data pretty much stayed the same as it would normally be outside of that one event. And then you can see tracking the speed data in the 4 areas that we look at. You have that V pattern because we had a downtick during the storms as well. And it's back up. And it doesn't matter whether you're looking at westbound or eastbound, it's the same. The numbers may be different, but you've seen that bounce back. Matter of fact, on the westbound traffic, you can see we had 10,000 more cars than we did the previous month because of the weather. And again, the V pattern on the speed data that we track.
More pronounced west than east, though.
What's that?
Interesting how it's more pronounced in westbound than eastbound.
It was definitely more pronounced, for sure. For sure. And then status of current projects. Obviously, you know that we've been planning for the 3rd annual senior summit. It's shaping up to be a really good one. They picked a very poor keynote speaker, but I'll do my best. Yeah, right. But we will have some class there. We'll have Tracy Lynn speaking as well.
We have Studio V come out and take care of your hair while
They should. That'd be good. That'd be good. So that's shaping up, and then of course that's going to be on the 23rd. I think we're already a third of the way through registrants, and I think we've got all of our vendors pretty much locked in. We're still in a procurement of our drone replacement grant, waiting on it to be shipped. Then we did the Motorola Solutions installation on the in-car cameras, along with the training. We have one more tier of training that we have to do tomorrow in the afternoon, and we was fortunate enough to have both the mayor and the town manager at the same location. They stepped in and took a look at the system and what it's capable of, and I think they can speak to that. But I think they were impressed about the equipment that we're getting. Keep in mind that it's not just a front viewing camera; it also views the occupant that would be in the back seat, which is very beneficial, as you may know. AEDs have all been issued out that we received on the Firehouse Sub Grant. We did a little thing on the 24th, just a little picture meet and greet down at Firehouse Subs with the regional manager and the owner of our local Firehouse Subs. And as you know, that was over $14,000 in equipment that we got from the Firehouse Subs Foundation grant, which is always a good thing. We're also continuing our interviews on our East Summons vendors. Lieutenant Davis, Sergeant Finley, and Officer Madigan spoke to a Boy Scout troop about alcohol and drug abuse. Still continue work on the annual report. We've pretty much got that polished up. We just got a couple more things, and we'll get that out hopefully in the next month. I actually wanted to report on that tonight, but we just weren't able to get that ready. Just too many irons in the fire right now. We did take part in the NHTSA campaigns, and obviously we have another NHTSA campaign coming up. Well, the whole month of April is Distracted Driving Month, but on April 6th through the 13th, we do the Put the Phone Away or Pay campaign. You might have noticed that the sign out on the east side of town, our message board is already related to the distracted driving and put the phone away. And then there's also a drug impaired driving that we're going to do on April the 20th as well. But we're gonna keep up with those mandated campaigns. Again, going to what you just talked about a second ago, Officer Henderson recovered a stolen vehicle off of a community safety camera hit that was stolen out of Fairfax. And coincidentally enough, it was the same individual he arrested last year for possession of a stolen vehicle out of Henrico County. And then Officer Galbraith had interactions with the same individual a couple of days ago, who guessed he hadn't stolen the car yet, but he had warrants out for him, so he's back in jail again. And then Officer Galbraith had obtained warrants on a felony. That was another case that we had, where there's a felonious assault on a local restaurant worker. And that subject still remains a fugitive. Sergeant Bergeron, the case I talked about a minute ago with the stalking. And then just wanted to commend Officer Galbraith. We always work on the in-car camera, and he also is the one that wrote the Firehouse Subs grant for the AEDs. And then we had a medical call for service where the individual was not able to answer the door. Sergeant Bergeron forced entry into the residence. I believe the subject has gotten out of the hospital, but wanted to throw a little shout out to, town maintenance worker, Matt Burrows, who volunteered. It was in his neighborhood, and he volunteered to fix the guy's door and make sure his residence was secured. And then even went a little bit further to make sure that the occupants, the individual's pet, was taken care of and is being taken care of. So good job on Matt, and great job on Chip for getting in there so the medical staff could provide life-saving measures to that individual. As you can see, we had several community safety camera alerts this month, along with recovering the stolen vehicle and helping more than one person that's been reported missing or having mental crisis. And then we had another issue where a subject brandished a firearm at a couple that had left a note on his vehicle that he didn't care for very much. But ultimately, the individual, the gun was a great look-alike, but it was a fake. It wasn't an actual firearm. But it doesn't matter if it looked real to them, and so he gets charged with the same thing. And of course, you can see that our councilman represented us great, along with the mayor at St. Baldrick's event. We already talked about the Firehouse Subs working on the put the phone away. Farmers Market is about to gear up, as the town manager said. And then we have the drug impaired driving coming up on the 20th, the senior summit on the 23rd. The one thing I wasn't able to get a date for, but I do have a date for, I wanted to make a notation here. We will be conducting our first women's self-defense class on April 20th at Haymarket Jazzercise. The next one's going to be in August, early August. But if you're interested, if anybody's listening that's interested, they can go online with Haymarket Jazzercise and schedule up for that class. It's going to be held at 6:30 on April the 20th. So there you go. Questions?
I actually have a definition question.
Okay.
And can you define what reportable calls are versus non-reportable calls?
Okay, so a non-reportable call might be a call that we have to go to mitigate an issue, say a landlord-tenant dispute, where there's been no assault. It's just a dispute, and we need to advise on their civil remedies for whatever their issue is. A reportable calls were a crime, or depending on what the offense is, maybe a traffic offense such as DUI or driving suspended has taken place. So that information, all of that information gets sent into DART and BSP, but the reportable ones are tracked for that specific purpose. It doesn't mean that an arrest was made. It just means that more than likely that a crime had committed and we have to investigate it. And so then you might look, I know in your profession, people are going to look at what type of a neighborhood they're moving into. That's where that data comes from. So it's not necessarily that an arrest was made. It might be a burglary that happened that we can't solve, but the burglary still happened. So that is a reportable call for service. And then we define them also into complexity, whether it's going to involve follow-up investigation, arrest, court time, grand jury time, a lot of different aspects on that go into making the call for service last. You have a landlord tenant, you're there for half an hour, everybody's advised on what they can and can't do and how they proceed, and you wash your hands of it. Where other calls you might spend months just working on it.
Thank you. And then my secondary question was about the women's self-defense class. So I'm super excited that you gave me a date.
Yeah, no, and I know that you would ask about that, but Lieutenant Davis takes care of instructing that. And of course, he's been off with some family medical stuff. And when he finally got back and was able to get with the jazzercise lady, I always forget her name. I hope she's not watching. But he was actually able to get with her, but it was after I had already submitted the report to come to council. But we got it going on. It's April 20th. Hope to see you there.
I'm going to get online and register.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? No? All right. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you.
All right. So that's going to put us going into our agenda items. And the first one up is our monthly financial report. Roberto?
Back to you.
Page
Unless
21.
unless there's specific questions, right now everything is looking positive. We're starting to see a bigger influx on receivables on the B polls, but nothing really abnormal to report. I don't know the specific question though from council when it comes to the current.
See little money coming in from the school now, so. Good to see somebody paying lease and rent over there, so.
Yeah.
Anybody on this side? No. Do appreciate the updates. I know that I attended the finance meeting and we were just doing a couple like housekeeping updates on dates. But I don't have anything and you're good?
Yeah, good.
All right. All right. Thank you, Roberto. Okay, so now we're going to have a discussion on the draft AI policy on page number 26.
Yes. So kind of just brief to the point, you have the red line version of what we've put in place and worked with our town attorney on. And then you do have the clean version on packet page 29. I'm happy to take any feedback if you have any this evening to give. Otherwise, I will be bringing this to our town council meeting next week and looking to adopt the policy if council feels it's ready.
Quick question for you, as we've looked at
Yes.
this policy. Do we have, obviously as a town, we have a number of systems that we use, Microsoft solutions. I know you talked about an asset management solution. Many of these solutions are embedding AI into those software products. And in many cases, even giving their customers an inability to turn off some of the AI features. Have we accounted for that kind of within this policy at all?
We have not.
I mean, like I know we have Microsoft, we have, we use Outlook, Copilot is obviously one that's heavily used and heavily embedded. But I know that there's a lot of other systems as well. I know for a customer of ours, this, my professional life, this came up recently, which is causing issues. That's why I asked the question.
Okay.
So we just might want to look at this as a guidance, make sure that any software that we are using is also in compliance with this policy that we're looking at.
Absolutely.
And I think we talked, when we spoke about this last month, we talked about which ones not to use, but did we ever decision, like the town standard for which one we should use?
We did not have further discussion on that.
Yeah, just.
Do we feel like streamlining that is, with how fast everything develops?
I think in my eyes, it makes sense to kind of set a standard of one because it'll speak the same language. Whereas if you use different AIs out there, it might say the same thing different ways. And we do things a lot of times we wouldn't have a common language on things.
Well, that's what you were saying at the last time. You were
Yeah.
saying, ask the
Yes.
platform,
Yes.
where did you get that information,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, I'll always be asking what the source of the information is.
Are you suggesting that we limit it to like,
I
as an
would
example, like ChatGPT, if
Yeah.
that's the only one that
go
can
with
be used,
OpenAI or go with Gemini or go with, Copilot. It doesn't matter to me which one we go with as long as it meets, the security standards that the state has for that. But at the same time, I think we should limit it to 1 or 2, but not giving it with the sheer amount that are out there. Nobody's going to be able to keep up with, nobody's going to be able to keep up with how many are coming out. Because Matt said, there's an AI embedded in everything right now.
How do we choose? How do we define that?
I was looking, we have,
I'm still trying to figure out how to answer it too.
I'm putting my other hat on now. We need to establish standards.
Yeah.
We need to establish the technology standards that we're going to use as a government. We need to establish, which does specifically cite what technology. I mean, we talked about an asset inventory. We should have an IT inventory as well, whether that's included as part of it or not. But we need to have that in place. We need to understand what versions and make sure that we're running on approved technologies that don't have risk. And we need to basically understand what the AI components, but it should be a directive from likely the town manager, kind of putting together what are the approved technologies that can be used.
And verbiage in there on, I mean, I just feel like, and this is my naivete speaking, that just, it grows and it moves so fast and there's so much that is added. So how do we?
It's something that would need to be monitored and looked at on a very regular basis. But it's, I would say we, as the example, we use, Microsoft, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, blah, blah, blah. That's our standard for, the different categories that they fill. The asset inventory software, that's an approved technology. It's really whatever technologies we use, and if we say we can create a standard, to Dave's point, that whether this be around, if we're going to use a Gen AI type of a solution, is that going to be, OpenAI's ChatGPT? Is it going to be Microsoft Copilot? Is it going to be Gemini? We should establish a standard, kind of put a stake in the ground and just say that's the one.
for the sustainability of the policy and it being current, we can look and see if the state or federally, if there's approved ones, and is there a reference as
It should
simple
not
as
go
utilizing a,
I would look to certainly the state as well as the county to see what type of technology standards they do have in place. Do they have approved technologies already?
It should
Yeah.
I
overlay.
don't.
And
I don't think
hopefully
County
we can
has
create a
one.
policy that references an approval board, right? That
Right,
like a state approval board or something that already lists the approved products.
right.
And because this is growing so
Like an
quickly, this
enterprise
is such a
architecture.
fast-growing thing, it's going to be better for us to actually lock it down to which ones we approve instead of waiting for somebody else to say which one we shouldn't use. Because it's changing so quickly.
Yeah.
There's something new that's coming out every couple weeks. And instead of saying everything except for these 17, maybe 44, 132, boom, just lock it down to X or
Well,
whatever.
I would ask. Three of you up there seem very knowledgeable in IT services and that industry. Would one of the three of you gentlemen care to provide some assistance on this
He's the consultant.
policy?
I'm just the user of consultants.
He has a wedding he's planning.
I have a wedding I'm planning. I have plenty of time. Everything that we're talking about with this is exactly what I do for a living.
And
It's all, yes, I can assist.
And I would say,
and-
while we want to get it done soon, this is, we can work on this over the next couple weeks and months. This does not have to be in the next 4 days conversation.
No, but I think it's good that we're putting
Yes.
ideas out there of, thought process because yes, our backgrounds.
And it needs to marry with state and federal.
Yeah, Virginia has the Virginia VITA, Virginia Information Technology Agency. They are the ones that are going to hold that technology standards list.
Okay.
I know their
So
CIO.
Why don't I set a meeting with you, Mr. Gallagher?
That works for me.
Okay. And so this will not be on the Monday night meeting. We'll provide an update.
I think we need to get
At
our
the
arms
work
around it a little
session.
more first, yeah. But not wait either.
No, it's a
I would-
priority.
I would think May.
Yeah, I've actually got the Vita policies right here, so
Okay.
I'll meet with you on this.
Okay, so we are agreeing that there will be a meeting with you and town manager
Yep.
within the next couple weeks, and then we'll put this on April's work
April work
session.
session.
Okay.
If you want to invite me to it as well, Emily, I'm going to be hanging out in town for the next 3 weeks. So I'm remote for the next 3 weeks.
We could open the
Is that
invite.
because they won't let you wear a hat in the office?
No, they've already laughed at me for the hat in the office. The CEO walked in on Monday. He's like, what the hell happened to your head?
That was fun though. It was a fun
Of course it
event.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, Emily, I'll meet with you later. I'll have some websites I can send you as well, but I'm
Okay.
happy to go through this with you.
Okay, thank you.
And April work session.
I can't escape enterprise architecture.
That's right.
25 years later, I
I
still
was just on a
can't
call with
escape.
OpenAI this morning.
All right, so we're good with that direction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we will move on to the discussion on the draft council and employee training and travel policies.
Yes, so we're on packet page 37. So I still have in here some of the kind of red line comments for the elected and appointed officials policy that I wanted to discuss this evening. I have made the modification in the policy that the training and travel would be approved by the town manager.
Who approves town manager?
Let's get to that in the next one. This was done so that maybe with a change of election, depending on who's sitting up there, that all elected officials and those who are appointed would have what we would very much so hope to be a level playing field and opportunity to receive training, and that there would not be any political slant on who gets to attend. Are there any questions on this policy? Again, it very closely mirrors what we've proposed for the staff members and employees. There was a modification in the ability to rent a vehicle, so still allowing for the ability of renting a vehicle. We just changed the size options so that you weren't squeezing into a small economy car.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think you wrote it. I noticed you made I think we were kind of talking about if X amount or more, you can go to a larger vehicle.
Correct, yeah. So in attending the annual conferences and so when I had discussed it with you, I'd also mentioned, and in my experience of attending the annual conference with treasurers, they tend to have sedans, but there are a few counties that have multiple deputies. So the treasurers, they will have SUVs, so they all go in one vehicle, 3 of them or 4 of them. So just gave that as an option
Yeah.
in there. It's always if it's 2 or more that can go to for example, council members, if when it comes to the big October meeting. annual
EML.
meeting.
Yes.
I did
Sorry.
notice one there, it says 2 council members, more than 2 council members. Should we change that to 2 travelers?
Well, that's specific to your
Okay.
the travel policy for the council members. You'll see it in the staff, but it'll say 2 staff members.
Okay.
So yeah, the wording is different, but it's just to address specifically your policy.
Okay.
But we obviously too, it's in a draft form. We can change it, address it how you
And
guys
I
want it.
was, as I was saying
Opens
it,
up
I
too
agree
much.
with it
I
100%.
think that it needs to remain specific
Council
to
members or-
council members or staff,
Staff members.
in my opinion.
No, I
Um,
don't, as I was saying it, I was thinking that already, so.
On page 43, so I apologize that the comment didn't print out. Here,
I was clicking on trying to see what
so
it was.
this, not only would conferences and trainings be restricted to the availability of town funding for that budget year and what's been appropriated, but also I wanted us to have an opportunity that if something in some scenario we were to have, extremely unprofessional behavior, or there was to be some issue in that manner, that council had the ability to restrict or discuss that problem and kind of modify training abilities. So this comment here addresses what is the appropriate document that would allow for that. So in the staff policy, it is the Haymarket Employee Manual. In this scenario, what I was asking in the comment is the council's policies and procedures a better document? Is the Haymarket Employee Manual enough to cover it? So I think that's something that we do need to clarify.
Where is it in, can you point out to which paragraph it says in the manual? And what the verbiage is?
I would need to pull that up. What it's going to come down to is how the council member is defined, if they are considered in our manual as an employee of the town, and if that manual is applicable to them. Or do you just want to change the language in the policy, and is council okay with modifying this language and not having a document reference, which I think is also very appropriate. It's just up to council, because I know in the past there's been question about the different policies that councils agreed to.
I think acknowledging it in the travel policy leading to appropriate behaviors to be conducted is enough for the, no?
I think we need to call out where and which document it is.
Yeah.
But still, because we only have to update in one spot.
Wouldn't we technically still be employees?
That's what I was thinking as well.
So therefore, wouldn't the employee manual?
Is it
Pertain?
an elected official employee?
Yes, because we get paid and have
I'm
withholding
just-
taken
I'm
out.
just
Yes.
defining.
I think so.
I'm asking Roberta. who's- We're gonna
We're not
follow up.
full-time employees.
No, but I mean, we're representatives of the
question.
town and we need to conduct ourselves accordingly is really what it is amounting to. And where is that defined?
That's a follow-up. And the person I need to follow up with is on vacation all week. So I will follow up. So all that to say, it might not be Monday nights, just to not rush it, since that'll be,
Would everybody be on board with getting that information and then putting it on our next work session? Would that be reasonable
with
in a
that.
timeline?
No objection.
I'm good.
okay.
Ken?
Good.
So the employee one, very similar setup here. Happy to answer any specific questions. I know this one has not changed since your last viewing of it, except for that modification in the rental car on page 46. I was pretty explicit in this one regarding what conference work time was considered as. This has just always been a question as we come back from these types of events and we're working on filling out timesheets. So I wanted it very clearly stated for everyone's knowledge.
Any questions, comments?
I would say in this scenario, if everyone is on board with this policy, if there are no specific questions that need additional detail, I would recommend that we go ahead and put this one on the town council agenda for April. Just better to go ahead and have it in place and approved.
I think so.
I think that works.
Now, these are two separate documents, right? The
That is
employee
correct.
document.
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct. And this one does reference the Haymarket Employee Manual. That is the manual that all town of Haymarket employees are held to. Chief has additional general orders standards for his department.
I'm in alignment with that. Yes.
I'm totally good with
Yes.
that.
Okay, so this one will move to Monday night.
Okay, well, and that puts us moving on to the draft procurement policy on page 49.
One moment, just let me finish this note real quick. Okay, so Roberto and I have been in discussions with the finance liaisons over the last few months. So we are working on a updated procurement policy. So what we're finding is that our current procurement policy we have just is not detailed enough. It does not have a lot of the different scenarios that we are coming up against when it comes to purchasing, to include different sealed bids, negotiations, emergency purchases, and also sole source procurement. And so Roberto's taken quite some time to, in a positive way, he's taken a lot of his time, valuable time, to come up with this draft procurement policy. I would like to hand it out this evening so you guys can give initial feedback if you have any tonight. Otherwise, I would like to ask for comments over the next couple weeks so that we can work on it and bring back a draft for the 27th at that work session. Mind you, both of our finance liaisons are out this evening, and just based on their different meeting things and not being able to meet with us, we have not been able to get good concrete comments back from them either. So we are waiting on those as well. Some big changes you'll see in this document, that minimum threshold for a expenditure by the town manager, that's currently at $10,000. And so that has changed. That policy was initially written in 2014. And so we are finding that cost of doing business is significantly changed over the last 12 years, and that there are some of these services that we are looking to purchase or follow through with that are not meeting that $10,000 threshold. We are also looking for better language and ability to utilize sole sourcing. So there are pre-approved government contracts that are out on procurement websites. So we would like to look to use a source such as Sourcewell. An example of a project in this scenario would be utilizing a sole source procurement to be able to purchase the generator for this property and utilize those fire dollars to be able to complete that project. And there is a service provider that Prince William County utilizes through sole source procurement, and that is one that we could also jump onto that contract as well. So just some different examples of what's in here. We have tried to not reinvent the wheel, and so we have tried to utilize some recommendations from other local jurisdictions around us.
So you're looking to get comments for
Anytime
by
you
the-
have them.
Okay.
Ideally, if you have anything ahead of the work session that we can go ahead and work to putting into a new updated draft, please by all means drop us an email, set up a meeting, do a phone call with us. Roberto or I, you do not have to flag down both of us. If either of us are available, please utilize those opportunities.
I will just say on page 51 under conflicts, there's
Uh-huh.
just a misspelling of where the town is exempt. This ordinance shall control, town is misspelled,
Okay.
but that was, you know, I love a definition, so I love that.
I had a question. if I could.
Yes.
On page 55, I guess it is, you have the effective date and the effect on prior contracts and talking about it becoming effective August 13 of 2020. Is there a reason for that date?
That's a carryover from another one, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Catch that, good catch. Sorry
Thanks.
about that.
I saw that too.
I was wondering if we had a prior contract we were considering. That's why I'm asking.
So just to give you a little bit more feedback, so when I work on these, RFPs or policies, I tend to lean to my fellow treasurers or other localities that have in place approved or adopted policies. So that is my mistake. I didn't catch that. Probably just took it over from one of the approved policies. Well, good catch.
Is there anything else?
Nothing quick.
And I know it's a lengthier read for you.
But we'll be seeing this next week.
No,
No,
work
next
session.
month.
April work,
Okay.
and then we'll provide
Yep,
comments.
comments on
Nothing further for me.
that. Okay. Ken, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Dave? All right, so that puts us going to the discussion of our full-time town planner's position on page 77, please.
Oops, sorry. Okay, so this discussion, I just would like to preface this. This discussion is regarding the position and the position only. So what I would like to propose to the town council is that the planner position be re-expanded to a full-time position. So that position is currently in a part-time capacity. When a couple years back, when I transitioned from the town planning zoning administrator position into the town manager zoning administrator new position for myself, we went back to having a part-time town planner. As the workload has changed and I would say grown and developed for not only the town manager position, but also some of the zoning duties, what I'm finding is that for better productivity, better delegation, there is a need for an expansion of this position again. So what I've done here is I've tried to demonstrate what added duties would be there. What I will say is that this position is currently at 32 hours a week, and we still could use some more each week. So there's a lot of duties and tasks, I think, that is well documented in the administrative report, as well as items that we really want to accomplish, especially our comprehensive plan being our number 3 priority in our strategic plan. So I've added here in some red the updates to the job description. I've added here in green what these job duties kind of entail when it comes to, is it a monthly item? Is it weekly? Is it daily? So I tried to give a good synopsis here. And then also some additional timeframes when it came to the comprehensive plan. So as I stated in the beginning of our meeting when we started talking about the budget and what this ask is for, I also want to specifically add that if this position were to go full-time, I will be requiring of the position 8 hours a week to be done on the comprehensive plan. And those 8 hours would have to also show a deliverable each week. And so I'm trying to utilize this opportunity to do quality tracking of a comprehensive plan update for town council, reporting back to you what's being done on a monthly basis. So really that comes out to be 32 hours a month, strictly on comprehensive plan, trying to show that it is something that we are working towards achieving, doing the most we can in-house, and then utilizing a consultant at a later date as needed. When it comes to specifics of projects, so I think that council has seen right now with everything coming in when it comes to site plans, rezoning application, also some SUPs that we've had, the day-to-day function has stayed very busy. I often get the question, I think a lot of people think it, but we're almost built out. So then what? What I would say is that we're not almost built out. I know that raw land is slowly disappearing, but we need to also be thinking about all of the vacant structures that are in town. and what that looks like for redevelopment. Also, what potential there is for some of these properties being turned over. They might not be vacant right now, but those being turned over for redevelopment. Some examples I could easily give would be projects such as the Blight Drive townhouses, right? So as we sit here today, there's 3 parcels that have single-family homes that are all occupied, and I doubt any of us would have said those will become townhouses, but that's the reality of where we're at, is that we do have some older properties that people are purchasing up. They are wanting to redevelop. So I want us to keep an open mind when it comes to that portion of zoning and planning. But the part I'm really asking council to consider and look at is the administrative tasks that don't go away when your town's fully built out. So administrative tasks in this town that unfortunately have had to take a back burner seat are our comprehensive plan. I think we all know that one very well. Our zoning ordinance, that's a document that we as a working professional in your office are in daily. When we are utilizing it, we're interpreting it, and we're holding people to it. However, it's also a document that we need to be in a very routine method when it comes to updating it, finding where the issues are. That is something that's currently being tracked and worked on, but those things don't go away when your town's built out. If anything, they change even more so. Additional items, the strategic plan, I think there's a lot of initiatives in there that we have worked to set, and those are items that this position can help facilitate, as well as just your day-to-day zoning permits, zoning approval request, zoning violation letters. So there is plenty of work to be done. I like to say there's not enough hours in the day or the position currently to get it done. So I'm kind of asking council to take this all into consideration. Certainly, it's a position I would like to see go to full-time at 40 hours a week starting July 1. However, I would also like to make the plea that if council finds it appropriate, this is a position that if it could go full-time sooner, that is something that we're very interested in and would greatly benefit us.
So I'm hearing that there's an offset with full-time versus anything that we would contract out, which would be very nice and beneficial. So there's
Yeah.
a cost savings there. I also feel that this position in a full-time scenario offers, like, we're still requiring nightly meetings and participation there. So there's some flex time that could,
Yes.
that could
Yes, so
be utilized.
this position is in charge of staffing 2 of our monthly meetings, so the Architectural Review Board as well as the Planning Commission. And possibly, let me just add, sorry, and possibly attending council meetings when appropriate, depending on what the agenda items are.
This role going full-time would also give bandwidth to follow up on things that, like sign ordinance that we're still
Yes.
working on. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's, right there in itself, that's a great example. So we had an opportunity that we could have a mural, a sign. We also have business owners who are asking for additional assistance when it comes to signs. And so having the bandwidth in staff to be able to start, in a more proactive manner and not always a reactive manner, work on some of these projects. So what I would ask, if you think of any questions after this meeting, please let me know. Roberto's, he is on standby. If anybody wants to talk about the dollar numbers of it, I'm happy to have Roberto share that insight. If it is acceptable to council, I guess, is there a thought on if you guys would be open to it starting sooner than July 1?
I think we have to wait because there are 2 people here from finance
Wait,
who are not
okay.
here. I think
To bring the
help
discussion
you,
back
I
April
understand that, but-
27th.
And I'd like to get some numbers in front of me on it too.
You want numbers?
Because really, when you're looking at it, you're saying, I want 8 hours a week to be for the comprehensive
Mhm.
plan. Part-time is 32 hours a week. So does that 8 hours, does it benefit us all of a sudden having to choke up the benefits package or pay a consultant to do it? So, you know, it's a balance, right? So we need some numbers as well.
And from the qualitative response, I would say the investment in a person to be here and be on your staff full time, you'll get a better return on your investment when it comes to the quality of the work and what they are bringing to the team. Roberto can certainly give you the quantitative number of that. He does have numbers if you want to have a preview of that tonight, but we can also wait till the work session.
That's right. The unmeasurable
Yes,
piece, right?
yes, I have to add it, I do.
Well, I also feel like it's already been noted.
It-
In
and this
some
is-
of our line items, it's already been noted in regards to the efficiency
Right.
of that position.
And what I would say right now is the 32 hours I have right now, I can't ignore your third priority, right? We have to be working on that. So of the 32 hours a week I have right now, I am already having to kind of say, okay, this is going to have to wait because you have to do comprehensive plans. So we are making some adjustments there, but still trying to be very efficient in what we're getting done.
The only other thing I saw in here was that you had a bullet for other duties that are as assigned with 3 bullets and then 2 subsets under that. I'm always a fan of figure out where these 3 bullets need to go because other duties as assigned should just be a bullet point by itself with nothing under it.
Okay.
It's on page 77.
The catch-all.
Dude, I
Catch all, catch
I
all.
lived through that. Yes.
Right here.
Yeah, I can easily, yeah. Those can be ones that are easily modified out. Not a problem.
This one right here. That needs to be a bullet point by itself, I think. But I did put a note in here. In my notes, I'd like to have to move forward 7-1 or earlier. So, I get it.
Okay. All right. Are we good?
So we'll bring it back 427.
Yes, please.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the draft ordinance on the town park closing hours on page 81.
So I don't want to take all of the glory here. I'm going to turn this one over to the chief for the next 2 items.
Can I borrow your-
Oh, yes, you may.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good evening. Looking at page 81 on the park ordinance. Obviously, you know, when we first started discussing this, we all felt that there was a need to have this ordinance and, you know, basically beef up on the trespassing side because it is a public park that we, you know, we own, obviously, but it's a public park that regulates and we need to regulate the times that people are in there. We've received, you know, several complaints of people going there are being worried because they've seen people hovering in the dark or people in a parked car or, you know, felt that there was nefarious actions going on. And then, you know, it's nothing to find somebody walking their dog there at 2 or 3 in the morning. But for, you know, the town's liability and giving us the teeth, especially whenever the park project does build out, it would be beneficial as well there, not just for the build out portion and protection of equipment and assets that's there, but after the build out is done, that we have something with teeth that we can ask people to move on. And should they decide not to, then, you know, then we have the ordinance to fall back on. So there you go. I'll take questions and I'm sure you've read it and looked it over. Pretty self-explanatory.
I think I asked my questions when this was brought up in the last meeting, so.
Yeah.
Are there DMARC requirements when you start to put these restrictions?
There is. We've already looked out for the signage that we need to place. That would give us that teeth that we needed to know, the acknowledgement that there would be a violation if they stayed after hours.
So are we looking at posting signs around as opposed to like a fence or something like that?
Yes, just posting signs. Yep, keeping an open environment.
Do you have anything?
No, nothing on this.
Okay, no.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I assume that all parks were closed at dark and
Right,
so I
right.
didn't realize we needed to put ordinance in place. So I get it, but then, you know, just like any other property, you need to put a no trespassing sign so
Exactly.
often throughout the property. And I didn't know how that fit in with our, you know, a demarc situation for us.
Yeah, it won't be an issue. And like you brought up, that's the biggest thing is the notification. And so the ordinance is step one, and then the notification is step two. And then obviously, you know, that, you know, we just want people to do the right thing. We're not looking to cause anybody any issues, but, you know, it's not great to have people there parking at night and doing things that they shouldn't do there. So,
Yep. Just give you the power to tell them to hit the road.
hit the road.
We'll give a little teeth.
I was
behind
just,
it.
I was just getting ready
Yeah.
to say, give it some teeth.
Exactly.
All right. Will you take us into our next agenda item then, Chief, please?
I sure would. And this is a one-off single here we need to look at, and I need to do some more follow-up with our town attorney on this. Obviously, I think you know that Councilman Caposello, he had brought this up, and then we had Sergeant Finley had also seen a need for it when it comes to e-bikes. And I mean, if you've watched the news any here lately, I mean, bike riding is not old, but e-bikes, you know, obviously are now to where, well, I don't think they're affordable myself, but quite frankly, now you can buy them. You don't have to rent them or lease them, so to speak. They're readily available. Matter of fact, I went to get some drinks for staff and passed 6 e-bikes heading eastbound as I was going westbound just in the few minutes that I went away. And if you've watched the news at all, you've probably seen some fights, some arguments, some people getting injured because, you know, it's not just pedaling down the sidewalk as in the old days would be. You know, these things are moving along pretty good clip. And obviously the sidewalks are built for people to walk on, not for something that can speed that fast and be riding on. And so we need to put some teeth in there. The town manager did a great job working with the town attorney to get this model started. I do have one follow-up question after I read it. It mainly leans towards the leasing and rental. I think that we need to have a separate, he talks about the use of, but when you read most of what is written here, especially when on like line 3 in the draft, or paragraph 3, regulates governing the operation of motorized skateboards or scooters, bicycles, electric powered assisted bicycles for hire within the town. Now, obviously, that is definitely something I mean, this ordinance is great, quite frankly. It was very well written. But, you know, if you have something like, you know, Lime or some other e-bike or e-scooter that decides to conduct business here, that is great. It's in place. It'd be perfect. But we also need to address the people that are personally owning the devices. They're not just leasing or renting or for hire. But I need to follow up with Olan on that. But, you know, this is a good first look for you guys to take a gander at it and maybe throw questions back at me or ideas or thoughts that you might have, because it is a rather lengthy document, as you can see for this. But we need to get that into place, and quite frankly, sooner rather than later. And I'm glad that Councilman Caposello brought it up. Is that we need to get ahead of this before we have issues here.
As it gets warmer, it's going to be more prevalent.
I was just gonna say,
Absolutely.
I've noticed more and more every time I'm out.
Something I noticed in this that maybe we need to clarify. It talks about e-bikes pretty heavily in there.
Mhm.
Bike is 2 wheels.
Right.
I was more of like, let's clarify it of non-internal combustion engine vehicles with less than 3 wheels.
Okay.
The reason I say 3, because there's these one-wheeled things that people are flying around on as well.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
And I say non-internal combustion because that kind of covers anything that's not gas powered.
Right.
And gas powered should have tags on it, which
Right.
means it's in lanes of traffic.
Right. Well, the gas powered items have been around for so long. There is code and there
Mhm.
is traffic laws that does specifically address those. As you're all dealing now with AI, technology moves faster than the code, and law of the land can follow behind it.
Yeah.
But since you brought this up, I mean, I'm not saying that we're well ahead of it, but we are ahead of it. And when we looked specifically, Sergeant Finley looking into sample policies, there was not a whole lot out there.
Mm-mm.
There was nothing hardly to find. So, we are kind of setting the trend here by moving forward with it. But I mean, of course, the town attorney's not available right now, but I do need to have a follow-up discussion with him about that specific of it, which I feel would need to be an add-on, but I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
And that we would address that as well. I think that's a very good thought.
When I read that article that I shared with you, but what they did in Orange County was an eye opener for me.
Yeah, I think it was within 2 days of you sending that article that there was a fight in Gainesville over
At the pump track down
that,
there.
at the
yeah.
same issue that you were bringing up.
Rollinsford Park, they have a bike track in there now. And somebody was on an e-bike in there and got into a fight with somebody who wasn't on an e-bike in there.
Yeah.
So it was 2 days after I sent the article out to everybody.
Yeah, that seems to be where most of your disagreements are happening, is you got people walking and people sliding by them at a really quick rate, hitting them with the bike or brushing them with the bike, and now everybody's all upset. So
Anything further?
points
So-
taken. If there's anything else, you just let me know.
I was going to say April 27th
Mhm.
work session.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Hopefully I can have that item brushed up.
Yeah, just,
And then my only concern is making sure that our wording is good.
I kind of agree with you on the separation between e-bikes in general and leasing maybe be separate.
Right. Well, of course, I read code almost every day, but a lot of people don't. And if I was to read that, I'd be like, oh, it doesn't pertain to me.
Right.
Because I'm not hiring one. I'm not renting one. I bought one, and they would just not even look at any,
Yeah, I think they're two separate things altogether.
especially
Yeah.
when you read paragraph 3.
Mhm.
Simple as that.
Yeah,
So,
well, there's a lot of licensee comments in here, and that pretty much says corporation as opposed, because I don't think any of these e-bikes require licenses at this point, right? For
Yeah, people
No,
riding.
For
them are
someone
cars
riding,
without
yeah,
a
because the
license.
kids are too young.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mopeds of the day, right?
Yep.
You didn't need a license; you just needed to be 16 years or older in Virginia.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you have governors with 30 miles
All
per
right.
hour.
So we're needing to go into closed session.
Yes, do you want to do a brief recess so that we can get ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go into make the motion.
Can we make the motion to go into closed session and then take a brief recess? Okay. Who would like to read that in?
He's already took his
Do-
breath.
Do you want me to, you read the closed one?
Yes.
I can do that.
We go into closed session.
Sure. I move that the Haymarket Town Council go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel regarding a specific legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to Town Park RFP.
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, there we go. Thank you, Kim. All right, and then Matt, you're gonna bring us up.
Sure. So after our motion, the council did go into a brief recess and discussed the fact that our legal counsel is not present at tonight's meeting and that the closed session motion called for consultation with legal counsel. Accordingly, we have decided to not go into closed session and are going to be rescheduling that for next Monday at our regular meeting.
Kim, does that require a roll call? No? Okay, thank you.
If you did not go into closed session.
Perfect. All right, so with that being said, is there any additional business before the town council?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thank
All in
you.
favor, say
All in favor.
aye. Aye.
We are adjourned.